Good morning and welcome back to the Live, Build, Change Morning Mindset Podcast Edition. I've kind of mixed up the way I normally say that, but that's okay. You get the point. We are here to get our minds right, centered around the truth of God, so that we can live this day in a way that is on purpose, on target, and aligned with the truth of God's Word. We're looking at this issue of limiting beliefs, and you hear it a lot in the coaching realm or in the personal development sphere, that we all have limiting beliefs. And I've kind of unpacked in the last few days that I do believe that's true. We all have limiting beliefs. But the limitation is more in our willingness to cooperate with God's plan in our life than it is with our ability to accomplish or achieve. Now, understand what I'm trying to say here. We will accomplish and achieve more when we free ourselves of limiting beliefs, but that's not the end goal. The end goal is to live according to God's truth and to do so in a way that brings holiness to our lives and is acceptable to God. That's Romans chapter 12. He says, I appeal to you, brothers, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice. So that's our goal, is to be some vessel that God can use, a sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. And then he says, and do not be conformed to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And that's what we're talking about. Getting rid of limiting beliefs is a process of renewing your mind. But you don't want to renew your mind just by trading one false belief for another false belief, no matter how optimistic it is. You want to transform your mind by getting rid of the false belief and replacing it with the truth that God says. Okay, so let's take a situation as an example. Say that you grew up in a home where finances were always tight, and that's kind of how I grew up. I remember going to the store and asking my parents, can we get a candy bar? Or can we get this? And often the response was, we can't afford it. Now that was a truth. At the time, we couldn't afford it. We didn't have the money at that moment to spare for a candy bar. But that phrase, and that, more importantly, the mindset behind the phrase, came to define how I felt about life and about myself and my ability. I didn't realize it at the time, but I've realized it since, having opportunity to step outside of the constraints of a tight budget like it was then. I've noticed, hey, I'm experiencing something different here, and it's challenging this mindset I've had all my life that I can't afford it, or that money's tight. And that's just a small example. We get these beliefs about life, and often we'll say, that's just the way life is. Or, I'm not that kind of person. Those kind of things don't happen for me. And you hear in those statements is a belief. There is a belief that there is a limitation on you. Perhaps you think imposed from the outside by your circumstance or by God himself, who has not given you the opportunity to step into a realm where that situation might be different. And you see, what I'm trying to get us to here is the understanding that those beliefs oftentimes are self-constructed. They're not the way God sees the situation, and in fact, may not be an expression of faith at all. In fact, oftentimes it's not. Our limiting beliefs limit us from receiving from God everything that we could receive. I think perhaps that's the best way that I've said it so far. We limit our ability to receive, our capacity to step into God's will in terms of what he might accomplish through faith by believing him to be bigger than any limitation we perceive or might believe. Tomorrow's episode of the Morning Mindset, we are going to dig into that a little more, because I think this is really the sticking point. This is where we want to understand this so that we can learn to jettison those limiting beliefs. Join me again for tomorrow's Morning Mindset episode.